Bonjour guys, welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to talk about the FE schedule. So we're going to discuss why it's important to have an FE study schedule and also how to create one. Now, before we get started, make sure that you guys subscribe, and if you guys like this video, please give me a big thumbs up, and also make sure that you guys stay until the end because I have some really exciting announcements. Now let's get right into it. Okay guys, so just like we discussed, in this video we're going to talk about how to prepare FE study plan. Now let's see what we're going to talk about. So why it's important to have a study schedule for the FE, and hopefully this convinces you to create a study schedule. And then also I'm going to show you guys how to create a good productive study schedule. Now let's first start with the importance of a study schedule. So it increases your productivity. Let's take a look at this for a second. So the FE Civil has how many subjects? 14 subjects, right? I'm going to reference to the civil just because I'm more familiar with the FE Civil. So it has about 14 subjects. Now, you communicate that to your mind and you tell your mind, hey, let's study 14 subjects. Your mind is going to want to do anything but studying because that is very overwhelming. So what you got to do is break it down into small tasks so it's more manageable. So this time, if you tell your mind, hey, let's just do math today, or even more, let's just do derivatives, your mind is going to be like, okay, I can do derivatives, but I can't do 14 subjects. That's a lot for me to take in, right? So you got to really communicate with your mind so that your mind helps you achieve your goals. And you got to also make it very manageable, and you got to break it down into small tasks. Now, and here's another thing. Not knowing what you're going to be covering, that also makes you very uncomfortable, and your mind is not comfortable with that. And then also it's going to make it very hard for you to start studying. Now, how many of you guys truly struggle to start studying, or even to start studying for this exam in general, or even during the day when you get back from work? Do you struggle to start studying? And if you do, let us know in the comments below. We have seen that a lot of our students struggle with this when they get back from work, especially a long day of work. It's hard to get started, right? And here's the thing, if you have a schedule, or when you're driving back from work or driving home back from work, and you start talking to yourself, okay, so today I'm going to study derivatives and I'm going to do 5 problems. You're getting yourself prepared mentally for studying, that's one. And then also communicating exactly what you're going to study by being very specific, by knowing exactly what's going to happen. Your mind is going to help you to get started, right? So knowing exactly what you're going to cover is going to make it very easy for you to get started. And if you start studying, you are being productive. Okay guys, now let's take a look at the second reason. So putting a schedule together helps you stay focused. What do I mean by that? Well, when you are studying, try to reach this deep level of focus. So it's better to do 30 minutes or an hour of deep focus than doing 4 hours of your focus is just everywhere. You're scattered, you're checking your email, checking Facebook, and you go back to work and then you check again, right? That's not deep focus. So it's important that when you are studying, you reach that level of focus because you process the information faster and you will remember it for your FE exam. So you will be more prepared for your tests. So whenever you're studying, try to reach that level of focus. Now, how do you do that? Well, first, know exactly what you're going to study. We talked about this earlier. So knowing what you're going to study helps you get started easier, right? And then also helps you stay focused, because here's the thing, when you know exactly what you're going to cover, and I mean exactly, but what I mean by that is like, what material are you going to cover? Exactly how many problems are you going to do? Which subjects are you going to cover? And it can't just be math, you gotta be specific. So let's say you say derivatives, 5 problems, and I'm going to use this resource, right? That's going to really help you stay focused because now you know exactly what you're going to study. You just gotta show up and just be present and just focus on the task that you have in front of you. Now, another thing you guys need to keep in mind with deep focus is that you really have to train your mind. So you got to be patient with yourself. So the first day you might do 30 minutes of deep focus. The next day you might increase it to 45 minutes and so on. But you got to really train your mind and your body to be able to sit with no distractions whatsoever and just kind of focus on learning. And it gets challenging because especially when you face a hard problem, your brain is gonna tell you, let's get out of here, let's do anything but studying, and you gotta kind of push through. So there's actually something I want to share with you guys. When I was working in the morning course, I was doing a lot of deep focus because the content I create really requires a lot of energy and a lot of deep work. And so I would wake up really early and I would just like I had so many books, engineering books, just open and just dive in. I create content on filming and all of that. Now I finished the morning course and I took some time off due to some family emergency and also because I was burned out, and I'm going to discuss that in this video. And then I started working on the afternoon. And here's the thing, when I first started, the first day when I started creating poems for the afternoon, it was hard. I couldn't start where I left off. It's just like the gym, right? When you go to the gym and you want to gain muscle, you don't start at 100, right? You start at 10 and then you increase it to 15, 20, and so on. And the same thing with our mind. And here's the thing, let's say you take time off from working out, right? When you go back to the gym, you're not going to start where you left off. You always drop a couple weights and then you keep increasing it till you reach where you left off. So treat your mind, guys, like a muscle. It's just all about training it. You sit and you just train it to sit for a couple hours so that you can do some deep focus, right? So I want to go back to my story, but when I started working on the afternoon course, the first day, I remember I did 4 hours and it seemed like I was doing 8 or 9 hours and I was like everywhere. I kept checking my phone, I kept getting up and then checking my emails and just talking to my team. I was just like, my brain was scattered and I was just everywhere. And here's the thing, I wanted to give up, but I kept pushing to, and it's important that you guys push through that first day and first 2 days because it's going to help you be more focused the next day. You're going to reach deeper focus the following day. So the first 2 days are a little bit challenging, but once you get into it, it gets easier. Okay, so it's very important to remember that. And then I want to talk about removing distractions. So this one is very important, and here's why. You guys have to not check your Facebook, Instagram, or your emails, or talk over the phone, or watch TV while you're studying. Because when you are studying and when you interrupt that flow, when you interrupt that focus, that's it, you lose it. When you come back, it's going to take you another 15 minutes or 20 minutes to dive in again. And it's important that when you are studying, that you are thinking about the same thing over and over again, because that's how you're reinforcing the concepts. But if, let's say, you're studying, you're reinforcing the concept, you're learning, and then there's a Facebook notification, or that's it, that got interrupted, and now you lost that focus, and now it's not reinforced anymore. So it's very important, guys, to remove all distractions, at least when you are studying. When you start studying, you gotta, if you're living with someone or with your family, you gotta communicate to them that this 1 hour you're going to spend it studying, and it will be great if you get no distractions. And you got to make sure that your phone is away from you, very far away from you, and your Gmail is not open, or your Facebook, nothing is open, just the reference manual and your books. Okay, make sure that you guys do that, because that's how it's going to help you reach that deep focus, and then you're going to be much better prepared for your FE exam. Now, putting schedule together can also help you automate your studying. And automating your studying can make you very productive and also stay consistent with your studying, and you will be ready for your FE exam. So if you have to think about what you need to study, you already lost. After a long day of work, how many of you guys don't feel like studying? And let us know in the comments below if you guys can relate to this. You don't feel like studying, and you start blaming yourself, you start feeling guilty, and you're like, how come I'm not disciplined and I don't have the willpower? And here's the thing, it's not about the willpower and it's not about the discipline, because willpower, it's like a battery. When you wake up in the morning, it's fully charged. As you use it, as you make the small decisions, even like what I'm going to wear today, what am I going to eat today, you are using your willpower. So by the end of the day, you have already used a lot of your willpower, and so you can't really study. It's hard for you to start studying, and so that's why you cannot rely on willpower, but instead you can form a habit, right? So here's the thing, if you don't plan, you are planning to fail, right? And so if you plan, let's say exactly what you're going to do after work, it's going to be easy for you to get into studying. And what I usually recommend to my students is that after you get off work, think about something that you can do to transition from work to studying, because it's really hard to turn off your brain from work and then just jump right into studying. So you can do like an activity, and being on social media and checking your email or being on TV is definitely not one of those activities, guys. Go exercise, go just jump or do jump rope, or you can run around the block, do anything just to get some energy, right? To get some blood flowing. That could actually be really good transition, and it's going to give you a lot of energy, and it's going to help you stay focused. There actually has been a study where they compared students who worked out versus the students who didn't work out, and they found that the students who did work out did much better in school than those who didn't. So if you can maybe exercise between work and studying, that could really help you. It can give you energy, and it can make you more focused, and you can learn the information much faster. So if you have that transition, so it could be either exercising, you can listen to a video or a podcast, something that's going to give you motivation. And so then you start studying. So what's going to start to happen is you're going to form a habit. So each time you do that transition, or you work out, or you listen to a podcast or something, afterwards your brain is just going to be like, oh, okay, this is the time where we have to start studying, because you formed that habit now, right? And also, if you pick the same hour every day, that would also be very helpful, and it can automate your studying. If you show up every day, same time, and you study at the same time, it's going to really help you form that habit faster. Now, for those of you who can only work or study after work, you guys can use this. And for those of you who can study in the morning, which I actually highly recommend if you are a morning person, because there are some people who are not a morning person. And if you are a morning person, then I highly recommend that you study during the morning. And in fact, Pranita, one of my students, she actually did this while she was studying for her FE. So she would wake up at 6 before everybody else, and she would just study for like 2 hours, and she reached that deep focus, and she did that every day. So after the first month, it just became a habit. She would wake up and she wouldn't even think about it. She would just start studying. And that's where you should be at. Because if you have to think about studying, and if you have to force yourself, you're going to lose that argument, because your brain is going to try to tell you to do anything but studying, because it's challenging. It's hard to study, right? Especially if you've been out of school for a while. So you got to try to make it really easy and try to automate your studying so it's easy for you to start studying. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about why it's important to have a schedule is that it helps you stay focused on the progress. Now, why is it important to stay focused on progress? Well, this actually is related to motivation. How many of you guys struggle with motivation? And if you do, let us know in the comments below. Now, here's how motivation works. So motivation is not something that you have, it's something that you get. And I actually got this from a book that says Motivation is a Myth. It's a great book, highly recommend it. But what he talks about in this book, Jeff Hayden, he talks about like, how do you get motivation? So you get motivation by first taking action, right? So it's like the gym. Sometimes, for those of you guys who work out, sometimes you don't feel like working out, right? But you push yourself because you formed the habit, you automated the process, right? You get to the gym, you start working out, and in the middle of the workout, you start getting this motivation and you want to keep going, right? Same thing with studying. So you gotta first take action, start, just get started. It doesn't matter where you start, whether you like math or you want to start with transportation or mechanics or materials, just get started. And then when you get started, when you do the right problems, right? When you start getting the right problems, the motivation is happening. You keep getting motivation. But you got to be careful, because sometimes we lose motivation. And I've seen this with a lot of students, that when they start studying, like third way or even halfway of their studying, they start losing motivation. And here's why. So you can lose motivation because you are stuck. Let's say you're stuck in a subject and you're just not getting it. A lot of my students, they would just get stuck in dynamics, or environmental engineering. This is the common subject where people usually get stuck, and we get stuck when we don't understand the problem. We get stuck when we are tough on ourselves. We get stuck when we don't celebrate the small successes. So a lot of times, like, you got to take a look back at what you have accomplished so far and celebrate that, and celebrate if you showed up today and you studied 1 hour, celebrate that. It's very important that you celebrate that, because that's going to give you motivation to show up again the next day. But if you show up for 1 day and then, or for 1 hour, right? Show up for 1 hour, you study, and then at the end of that hour, you're like, oh, I wish I had 4 hours. I wish I had 2 hours to study. You don't feel very proud of yourself. Are you going to be motivated to study the next day? No, because you are beating yourself up from yesterday because you didn't study enough. But you shouldn't think about it that way. If you showed up for 1 hour, that's good. That's already good. So show up for 1 hour, spend a good 1 hour, and celebrate that, right? Focus on what you can do, not on what you wish you could do, right? Very important. A lot of people, there's life going on, we have families, there's work. It's hard to balance everything. But if you are able to show up every day for 1 hour, you have to celebrate that, because that's what's going to keep you motivated. Now, let's go back to progress. So with progress, it's important that you guys focus on progress and not the goal. And again, this is related back to motivation. So when you have a schedule together, right, and you can see your progress, first you can see where you're at. So you started at math, statistics, and so on, and now you're at statics. You can see all of that. Wow, I accomplished all of this. So that you're going to celebrate that. It's going to help you stay motivated and to keep going. So first, you can see your progress. And second, why it's important to not think about the goal, because that could actually, you will lose motivation. And here's why. So if you are taking, let's say, FE Civil, and you start with math, and I believe the last topic is construction. There used to be surveying, but I think now it's construction. But let's say you start at math and you're going the order of the specification, right? If you're focusing on the construction, on the goal, the end goal, which is reaching construction, you're going to lose motivation because you are very far away from the goal. And this is why it's important that you put a plan together and you focus on your plan, focus on your progress, focus on every day what you're going to do. What are you going to accomplish today? Whatever you accomplish today, celebrate that and move on to the next day. Right? So that's why it's important to put a schedule together, right? And you focus on the progress and you don't focus on the goal. Now let's talk about how to create a schedule. So first thing is you have to have a detailed schedule. Now I talked about this earlier, and what I mean by detailed is that you can't just put math or statics. You gotta be specific. I'm going to cover derivatives, and then I'm gonna do integrals, and right, so you got to be very specific. The more specific you are, the easier for you to get started, because what you're doing here is that you're helping your mind to help you start studying. If you overwhelm yourself and you've overwhelmed your mind, it's not want to study. How many times did you have a big to-do list, and because of that big to-do list you didn't get anything done because you just got paralyzed? So that's why you got to put very realistic. So again, that's the second point, is that you have to be realistic. So you can't put like, I'm going to cover all derivatives and integrals in one day, right? That's a lot to cover. So, but you can do like, I want to cover, let's say 10 questions or even five questions in math, in derivatives. And if I want to go more, then I'll go more. But at least you're going to feel like accomplished. When you're going to achieve those 5 problems, you're going to feel like you accomplished something. You're going to celebrate that. And that's going to keep you motivated, right? Do you see, guys, how it works? So it's like this cycle that you just kind of, you can feed into it so that you can stay consistent till you take your FE exam. Now, if you put, let's say, derivatives and integrals and you don't achieve that, what's going to happen? You're going to blame yourself. You're going to feel disappointed. And you don't want to put that yourself in that situation, because you're going to lose all the motivation. You got to be very careful. So be very specific and be realistic. Don't be too hard on yourself. Put what you can do in 1 hour. And you have to be very specific. So I already talked about that. So that's the third point. You have to be very specific in terms of like resources. So you got to put what topic or subjects you're going to cover. And in addition to that, add resources. So if you haven't started studying for your FE exam right now, do research before you start. What resources are you going to use? Whatever courses you're going to use, or the Lecture book, or the YouTube channels, whatever it is, just put it on there exactly. You have to be specific. For example, math, I'm going to use these kind of videos, or this course. The statistics and polity, this is what I'm going to use. And this can also be book. Whatever you're planning to use, do the research before you start, and just make sure that you have a detailed schedule. So when you start studying, everything is going to be easy, right? You have everything ready. And it's not going to be, there's no obstacle for you to not start studying or for you to skip a day. And it's going to be easy for you to show up every day and stay consistent. Now, in your schedule, another thing I usually recommend to my students is that make sure that you guys have a practice exam and also breaks. So practice exam, this is what I usually recommend. When you complete the morning session, whatever that is for your discipline. So for example, for civil, that would be from math all the way to fluid mechanics. Now you might also get surveying, but if you are taking, let's say, my course, when you finish the FE Accelerator morning course, take a practice exam, full practice exam. Make sure that you time yourself. Make sure you mimic the exam environment so you prepare yourself mentally for the exam. And this is just to see where you're at. And don't take the practice exam to criticize yourself, right? If you get mistakes, that's okay. This is an opportunity for you to learn from your mistakes so you don't do them in the exam. It's better to do mistakes during the practice exam than to do them in the exam. I've actually had a student who she got like 45% in her practice exam, and a week later she passed her FE. So don't beat yourself up if you get a low score, but take it and learn from it, right? See how you're doing with time management, and if you're not doing well, then work on that, right? Take a look at the mistakes you're doing, learn from them, take it as learning experience, not to criticize yourself or judge yourself or put yourself down. Very important, guys. And so let's go back to when to take it. So take one when you complete the morning course, and then take another one when you complete the afternoon course, and then usually I would recommend to leave 3 weeks to kind of review everything, and during those 3 weeks, take another one. Now, if you have test anxiety, I highly recommend that you take at least 3, because that's really going to help you with just kind of being comfortable with taking the exam. And then breaks. So it's very important that you guys take breaks. This is just so that you don't burn out. Just like I mentioned earlier, I actually got burned out when I completed the morning course, and I honestly don't recommend that you study a lot for a short period. Spread out your studying, let your brain process the information, take a couple of practice exams, and take few breaks so that you don't burn out. You guys have to remember that recharging is just as important as studying, right? So if you take a break and you recharge, you're gonna have much more energy the following day, and you're gonna learn much faster. So you gotta listen to your body, and if your body's telling you, hey, like I really can't do it today, I really need a break, then listen to it and take a break, and then just come back again the next day. But don't let yourself, don't burn out, because when you burn out, you're gonna take a whole month off, and that's gonna be like a whole big gap in your studying, and you don't want to do that, because then when you're gonna come back, you're not going to know where to start, right? I've had a lot of students who would take like a whole month off because they burned out, and then they email me a month later, hey, what should I do now? Where do I start? Do I start where I left off? Do I start from the beginning? It's really hard to keep studying after that. So that to prevent burnout, it's important that you guys take small breaks and to recharge, to make sure that you guys don't have a big gap in your studying, because consistency is very important for this exam. Now let's take a look at an example, guys. So here we have a schedule. So the first day we're covering math, algebra 1 to 11. See guys, we're being very specific here. So we're covering math, but not only that, algebra and problem 1 to 11. This is actually based on the FE Accelerated morning course. So if you are a student, when you are putting the schedule together, use the information or the material on the course to help you prepare for the schedule, right? Be very specific. So what you're going to cover, what resource you're going to use, and how many problems you're going to do, or how many videos are you going to watch. And then here we have another example. So probability and statistics. So we're going to do problem 1 to 13. Okay, so this is how you guys can put a schedule together. Now, in terms of like how much you should study a day, that really just depends on your schedule. Like how much time do you have to study, right? And if you have an hour, that's okay. Just show up during that hour, make sure it's a deep focus hour, and just get to work. And if you have 2 hours, that's great, you can do that. If you can study in the morning, I usually recommend that better, especially if you're a morning person. Wake up before everyone else and get some 2 hours in the morning, and that way during the day you're less stressed about studying because you already kind of did it in the morning, and you're going to learn better and faster in the morning because your brain is still fresh. You still have no distractions, whereas at the end of the day it's hard because you already had so much going on during the day, so it's hard to kind of like just focus. But it just depends on the person. Sometimes if you are an afternoon person, it's actually easier for you to get to the deep focus. So you just gotta see what works for you and put a schedule that will work for you. Okay, don't try to follow someone else's schedule because everybody's different. Now, I hope you guys like this video. Now let's talk about the exciting news. So our courses are currently on sale. So we have the FE Accelerator morning, afternoon, and then also the bundle. So if you get both courses, you get a bundle deal. Now this sale is going to expire on March 1st because we're uploading geotechnical engineering to the afternoon or FE Accelerator afternoon course by the end of this week, and so we're increasing the price. So if you are interested in our courses, this is the best time to get them. These courses have helped so many students pass the FE exam, and here's the thing, guys. What you get from our courses is not just material. You get lifetime access, that's the first thing. Then you get to be part of a study group where you help and support each other. And you get to meet me every Friday where I talk about motivation, tips on how to study, and I also answer your questions. So if you're interested, make sure that you guys join us. And if you guys like this video, please give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure you hit the bell so you get notified each time we post new videos. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck with your studying, and I will see you soon. À la prochaine.